Okay, well, welcome everyone to our webinar that's produced here by the International Society for Quality of Life Studies. My name is Jill Johnson, and I'm the Executive Director here at ISQOLS. We're pleased to have Melissa Kovich from Purdue. Did I pronounce that right?
Yeah, you did.
Okay, from Purdue University College in the United States, doing her presentation on the Happiness and Wellbeing Learning Collaborative. And before we get started, just want to remind everyone that we are gearing up for our conference coming up August. We have the early bird registration deadline is May 30th. So you still have plenty of time to register for that. Do encourage everyone to consider becoming a member if you aren't already. Just by participating in this webinar, we will send you an access code for becoming a trial member with us for 3 months. And so you can try it out and then even qualify for the early bird member registration. So we encourage you all to do that. Of course, we'll be sending this out as a recording, just to keep in mind. A couple of other tips while we are in the middle of this webinar, please make sure that you have your muted button on. And then also we're all going to ask anyone but the presenter to turn off their video to preserve bandwidth. And then at the end, we will have a time for question and answers. So that you'll be able to ask any questions. If in the meantime, if you have a question or comment that pops up, feel free to use the taskbar down on the bottom of the Zoom application and ask a question in the chat box, and we'll address that at the end. So without further ado, I'll turn this over to Melissa and take it away. Thank you.
Thank you, Jill. It's so nice to be here. I'm really excited to talk to you guys today, and I appreciate the opportunity to connect with ISQOLS. As an aside, I was a student and I got introduced to ISQOLS several years ago. And so it's really exciting to now be a postdoc researcher and just, coming back to ISQOLS. And I'm really excited for the conference here to be in August. So coming up, so that will be really exciting. So I hope that I can share some information with you today about the Happiness and Wellbeing Learning Collaborative at Purdue University. And maybe we can connect at the conference. So my name is Melissa Kovich. I am a postdoc researcher at Purdue University in West Lafayette, Indiana, in the United States. And I'm also a co-director of a new project called the Happiness and Wellbeing Learning Collaborative. This exciting initiative was started here at Purdue. And we really just got started on this in August. So not even a full year really up and running. So we're kind of still in that transitional phase where we're trying to build a strong foundation and gain some momentum. But we wanted to connect with ISQOLS and share a little bit about what's going on. So without further ado, I'll give some talk about this, and then hopefully we can have some discussion at the end. Trying to get, this was working previously here we go. All right, so I'm gonna just share with you, oops, I just did something. Let's see. I don't know what happened here. I just lost my slides.
We can see it. Can you not see it?
You can see it? No, I can't see it on my end. Let's see here. That's so odd. Let me see.
If you pull up the Zoom.
Yeah, there we go. I'm back.
There you go.
I just
Okay,
did a little bit too much clicking. So
No worries,
sorry about that. All right. So this collaborative was built with good intentions. So you can see the mission and design of our program. So we really are centered on several goals. So fundamentally, we really want to research happiness and well-being. So we're really interested in gathering research and conducting research and obviously sharing that research. We're also interested in building resources to help support research and practice. So trying to build kind of that gap between research and practice, which, we see all the time. We hear about it. So we're trying to build a bridge. And we're also trying to develop some tools and some training that we can use to help both scholars and practitioners. So both sides, again, to be able to research and to collect data and to ultimately make a difference. That's what we're really trying to do. So we are looking for solutions to increase wellness and happiness. So we know that Obviously there's so much that can be done and there's still so much room for improvement. And we want to make sure that we can find some solutions that are equitable and they're sustainable. So of course, those are all important considerations. And we've had, this long period of COVID. We've had a lot going on with that. And still, even in some of the recovery phase, there's still a lot of things that we can learn from, what was going on during COVID, maybe what things might have changed, what things still need to change. And so we have all these goals to kind of bring the collaborative together and to work together toward them. So we have a kind of a multidisciplinary team, and we're looking at this through various different facets. So these are the mission and the goals. So we are working toward those together. To advance my slide. Here we go. All right, so we have a good group here, a core group of members and partners that we are assembling. Oops. Once again, I went off my slide. That is difficult. Oh, and we need to go back actually. Let's see here. Almost there. All right, here we go. So we've got a great group. We've got a great team here, a core team. Rhonda Phillips, many of you probably know her. She's a former president of ISQOLS. And Jason Ware, he's also at Purdue. If you've been to the ISQOLS conferences before, he's been there and usually brings a nice group of students from Purdue University, myself. And then we also have Laura Musikansky. She is our executive director of the Happiness Alliance. So she's our nonprofit partner. So this collaborative was really a joint project between Purdue University and the Happiness Alliance. So it really was kind of this brainchild of Laura and Rhonda. And then they gathered all of us together kind of to work on this together. So that is, she's somebody that if you haven't checked her out, you should go to her website. I believe it's happycounts.org. I hope that's right. But you can go on there and you can find her happiness index and you can take it. And it's a great tool to assess well-being in multiple dimensions. She collects data. She's a wonderful person. She's an author. Just so many things I could say about Laura. And then we've got several other fellows down below. So we have a philanthropy consultant, Catherine Dilworth, who's been really great to work with. And then the others are also a couple at Purdue, and we also have a Canadian, David Helliwell. He's with Thrive Health. So as you can see, we have kind of this core group of members and advisors, and we're really looking to strengthen our program. We're trying to obviously connect with other researchers at Purdue because we have such a great diverse faculty and staff and students at Purdue University, but then we also want to connect bigger, with other scholars throughout the country and hopefully internationally as well. We know that in our country, there's some schools and some programs that are doing some work on well-being. They're offering classes, they're doing research and all those things. But we also know that there's a lot going on internationally in these fields too. So we really hope to stay connected and to gain momentum and gain strength in numbers here. Of course, I just went on a different slide because that's just seems to be what's going on with my computer today. Let's see if we can go back here. I apologize for this. So yeah, so we have this great group. Like I said, we have a lot of different disciplines and roles. We've got some, people in the academy. We have some people out in the nonprofit sector. We have some people that are interested in alumni. We have people that are interested in student well-being, healthcare. So just kind of a diverse group, which is always really interesting to work with, and just gives us so many different ways that we could go and some different insights as we kind of try to move forward. So that is where we're at right now. We have had a meeting with most of our members. We're trying to improve the communication. So that is always hard if you have people at different places and you have people at different institutions, different time zones. So that is certainly challenging and everybody is quite busy. But hopefully we will, continue to communicate and to collaborate in the future. Alrighty, so we were fortunate. We had an event last month. It was our kind of inaugural event to kind of share the word at Purdue and also beyond. So we hosted this event. It was called MasterClass, a new generation philanthropy. And it was a really fun and exciting event. I think it went over quite well. And we had a great group, a mixture of students, we had staff, we had faculty, and then we also had a lot of nonprofit professionals from the area and beyond. We had practitioners from other states. So it was really a nice mix of different folks, so we could come together and discuss philanthropy and how it can impact well-being. And so we were had a variety of sessions and trainings and talks and discussions related to kind of all these issues that are centered around philanthropy and giving. So there's just a lot of things going on in that field right now that we thought it would be interesting to convene and talk about how best practices and, some new issues to think about when we're trying to, use philanthropy to be an agent to increase well-being of individuals and communities. And so it was good to talk about these things. So you can see kind of some of the different topics that we discussed. We had practitioners and scholars and researchers giving these. So it was a nice different viewpoints, different fields, different lenses, so to say, to kind of lead these discussions. And so we were talking about foundations and fundraising. We talked about how we can be altruistic and we can use, philanthropy to make the most benefit to the greatest number of people. We talked about how equity needs to be considered in philanthropy. That was something that, hasn't always been done, but certainly needs to be done as we move forward. We also talked about how we can gather community and seek their engagement so they can be enrolled in, participation of philanthropy and how they can, use their voices, for the things that maybe are most concerning to them. What are they hoping to get out of this? What could they benefit from? What do they identify as their needs? And then this kind of concept of participatory philanthropy. So how, once again, we can kind of involve common folks, the people that want to see these benefits in these practices. So it was a very nice event. And it's something that we had been working on for several months. We were going to have it originally in the fall, but we had to cancel it. So we rescheduled for the spring. And so we were really fortunate to have it. And it's something that we're hoping that we can do at least annually. So maybe next year we can start planning a bit earlier and we can, try to make it an even bigger and better event. Maybe add, some more groups, or just hope to get more people together to discuss things related to well-being. Let's see. Let me go to the next slide. Here we go. So we were really fortunate. We were able to get an international expert, Dr. Bob Reed, to join us for this class. So he is very well known in the field of philanthropy. He's the president and CEO of Edge Philanthropy currently, but he's been working in this field for many years in many capacities. And so he was able to join us, and he has been the leader of many large private foundations, and he does research internationally. He's doing some projects currently in South America and Africa on a variety of things like water safety, peace building, poverty, healthcare, micro enterprises. So he really does a lot of things for a lot of folks. But we had a small kind of a group session in the morning, which was really nice. we did some like case studies and role play activities to kind of understand what it would be like to have a small philanthropy, like a family philanthropy, and what it would be like to make the decisions that need to be made, like how you're going to allocate your funds, how are you going to agree, just kind of a great case study to understand all these things that go behind in the background of foundations. And it was really fun. So we had some students involved in that. And then we had our master classes during the afternoon, and then the keynote at the evening. So this was talking really about the history of institutional philanthropy in the United States. So it was a really good historical perspective about where things really started in our country with giving, and where they're headed now. So things have definitely changed. And so it was really nice to see researchers and practitioners and some students that were related all about philanthropic, kind of nonprofit work. So we've noticed there's really an interest in the students. A lot of them are really interested in nonprofits. They're interested in going to that for a career, or maybe they've done some volunteer work. And so they're just interested in getting involved, which is really cool with engagement. And so I think it went well. It was well received. And we have some information on our website. I think it's still up. We also recorded the keynote presentation. And so that will be going up on our website quite soon if you are interested in checking out more about, Bob Reed or the presentation he gives. So you can check that out. And I believe the best way you can find us, if you look under Purdue University, you can find us on the Honors College page, or if you also search, I believe it's Happiness Learning Collaborative, which was kind of our old name before we added the Wellbeing to it. Now we're the Happiness and Wellbeing Learning Collaborative. But if you just go to happinesslearningcollaborative.org, I believe it will redirect you to our Purdue page. That's been another story, but getting all these things up and running has been a lot of work, to get a website. And when you're affiliated with the university, just kind of all the things you have to do to get those things created. It takes time. But anyways, so yeah, it was a really good event. And like I said, hopeful to have something similar in the future. We also have several other things that we've done this year. So we're, like I said, as a new kind of initiative, we're still kind of trying to get the word out. We are hoping to do a press release sometime at Purdue. I think that should be going out any day now. But we've done some outreach. So we've had some podcasts and some webinars, and then we also have some books that I'd like to share with you guys that you might not know about. So Rhonda did a podcast last August for the Bravo Wellness podcast, and it was the social determinants of happiness. You can find it online, but that was fun. She just really kind of talked to the listeners about all the many things that go into happiness, all the things that some things that we can change, some choices we can make. This one, they were specifically talking about kind of life lessons that were learned from COVID. So things that maybe, people were more aware of during, lockdown or quarantining. So just kind of looking at, how important relationships are, time with loved ones, also, work-life balance and, your free time. Because some people, their jobs changed drastically in that kind of post the COVID era, excuse me. But they were, maybe they were working more remotely, they were working from home, maybe things got better in that way, maybe it made some things a bit worse. So she had some conversation about that. And, even things like spending time with your pet, how that can make you happier. And then just trying to understand, as we transition out of hopefully, COVID and all the restrictions, hopefully maybe we can use some of that knowledge make things better as we move forward. So trying to change, that our levels of happiness for the better, as we try to move onward. So you can check that podcast out. Also, a couple other webinars. I did one for Purdue Global last fall. Purdue Global, it was formerly Kaplan University. It's an online university, but they did a lot of series related to kind of happiness and health and well-being, kind of right after COVID happened. So this was one of their, I think, final ones in the Get Happy series. But for that one, we were talking to alumni, and basically we were talking about kind of the small things that you can incorporate into your daily life to helpfully, just boost your mood, to make things a bit better, to increase your life satisfaction. So for that one, I really just talked about, stress reduction, like deep breathing techniques. We talked about different types of meditations, how, incorporating those into your life. Certain types have been shown to increase positive affect or positive well-being, like loving kindness. And then just some mindfulness strategies. So really looking at, staying in the present moment and not worrying about things that happened in the past that, are over and done with, that you can't control, or also worrying about the future, which is, something we don't control either, but really just trying to stay centered in that present moment, to kind of ground us and keep us a bit more mindful and happy, hopefully. And also, we just talked a little bit about being grateful and having a gratitude practice. So those were just really the things that, just tiny things that, don't cost a lot of money, don't, require a lot of time, but really can, give your mood a boost. So, and then also, and it was fun. I really enjoyed doing it. So it's fun to do those kind of things and, share your knowledge with others. And Rhonda did one here just a few weeks ago too, on community development. So she has a background in that discipline as a community planner and developer. So she was talking about how those fields really there's a lot of overlap, and there is a lot of shared constructs, there's shared frameworks, and really how those concepts can benefit each other. So having that knowledge and, using, knowledge of planning tools to, be mindful when you're planning for communities, how you can use that to, incorporate and hopefully promote well-being of the residents. So things like green space and others. So that one is online too. I believe there was a link. It was a free webinar, and I'm sure it was recorded as well. So, hopefully and of course we have this one today. So it's always fun to, share a bit of your knowledge and to connect with maybe a different audience related to, happiness and well-being. And finally, I wanted to mention a couple books, and like I said, a couple of our founders have contributed to these. So they are wonderful. If you're not familiar with them, I would highly recommend you checking out the Happiness Policy Handbook and Happiness, Wellbeing, and Sustainability. So I can definitely speak for the first one. Personally, I use that in a class that I teach at Purdue, and it's wonderful. To give you a slight overview of it, it is just it gives you a great introduction to kind of the history of happiness and well-being. Kind of explains the movement, where it came from, how it's been measured, different types of tools that have been used. It shows you a lot related to the happiness index. So that's from Laura's work. And also it talks about how you can really connect individual well-being, and how you can use it to be an agent to increase community well-being. So how you can measure well-being of communities, and then how you can go about increasing it. So it gives you all these great step-by-step things that you can do, and really just follow the book. So in that case, it can be used by anyone. So it can, be useful for a student. It can be useful for a researcher or an instructor, and it could also even be useful for just, just a citizen that wants to make changes in local government or changes in their community or their neighborhood or whatever. So it's a great book. And then the second one is very similar. I haven't read all of it yet, but it has talking about change agents and being sustainable. It also talks about like systems thinking. So it's another great book. And I believe that one is being incorporated by a class that we're offering at Purdue this summer as well. So once again, those are two great books that can be used as tools, which are great. So I wanted to shed light on those. So check those out. And then like I said, we have several classes at Purdue that incorporate happiness and well-being. So I just wanted to mention those to you. So my class, happiness, the first one, I'm teaching that here in a couple of weeks at Purdue. I taught it last year as well. It is a really fun class, and it was really well received. The students, I think, were really looking for something like this last year, especially with COVID. They were looking for ways to understand happiness and purpose, and really just, I think a lot of them could use some help. Purdue is a really research intensive university, and the students are, exceptional. They're very bright, they're very motivated, but they're also really stressed, and COVID has really impacted them, some, on a great level. They've had loss, and then they've just had a lot of other things that, it's changed life as we know it. So this class, I really was looking at how you could, the history, kind of an overview of happiness and well-being, how we can look at individuals, how you can think of happiness, in your life, how you can measure it. And then we incorporate some readings with tools and techniques to increase it over time. So it's neat to see how they can use those and how that changes them. And then also for the final project, there's a group project where they look at increasing well-being of communities. So they get to choose a community and work on a project to make a difference in a community level. So it's really fun. Last year, some people were tackling issues like opioid addiction in some areas that have been heavily hit, and homelessness, and some other things like the public health crises. The next class, community change making, that is a class that's going at Purdue, and that one is similarly aligned kind of with the philanthropy class to talk about how philanthropy can address like societal problems, just local problems to global problems, and using like innovation and kind of using diverse approaches. It's really about being like a change agent. So how to be a change agent in your area. And then we have a study abroad that's going on here in May. And it's New Generation Philanthropy. It's looking at effective altruism for well-being. And so that group is going to St. Andrews, I believe, in Scotland, to look at well-being and to see how, we can do the greatest good for the greatest number, kind of that altruistic, using a philanthropy lens. So very much in line with the class that we offered, the event that we had last month. And then we also have a class called Wellbeing that is taught by Dr. Ware, Jason Ware. Like I said, he has come to ISQOLS before, he's presented, and he usually brings students. But that is his class that it's kind of like a service learning class. It gets the kids out in the community in a lower income area outside of the university. And the students get to collect research and collect data and work with the residents of that area to identify problems and to get funding and to work on projects that will improve the community. So he's been doing that for several years. It's a very exciting, very impactful class. So those are the things that we have going on at Purdue related to happiness and well-being. I know there's obviously probably some other really great classes like this, similar at other universities. I'd be happy to hear about that. We also have our journal. So we're fortunate, we have the International Journal of Community Wellbeing. And that's housed at Purdue. And I believe Rhonda and Dr. Ware are, I think, co-editors. And we have had a lot of special issues related to topics of interest. So you can see these are just some of the recent ones we've had. So we've had looking at higher education. So how do we increase well-being? We know that there's a lot going on at college and university levels, because we know that we could use a lot of well-being. Also looking at artificial intelligence and community well-being. And the final one, I believe, was philanthropy. So those are some of the issues that we've had most recently. And I did want to mention that if you are interested, I would highly, if you're interested, if you have a topic that you think would be interesting for others, to contact us, and we can discuss if you want to be in charge of a special issue. So that's something I wanted to throw out there to members of the community. And then also, if you have a manuscript, I would, strongly encourage you to submit to our journal. Hopefully, maybe some of you are familiar with it. All right. And I just clicked out of my thing again. Let's see here. Here we go. So that's really all that I have to present, but I came up with some questions. And if I do have people on here that want to discuss, like I said, we are a new collaborative. So we're still in that kind of ground building, foundation building stage. And so if anyone would like to chat with me, I would love to talk to others that have experience with this. So really we're still trying to build strong engagement. So with collaborators, if you're interested, we definitely would love to talk to you. Or if you have some really great stories about how to connect with stakeholders or collaborators, and if you have any strategies, and really we're trying to build a really strong foundation to be a covenant of scholars, researchers, and citizens. So we're really trying to have that broad, rich impact and really have that collaboration. But there's definitely some challenges to it. So if anyone is on here that would like to discuss any of these things, I'd love to hear from you. Or if you have specific questions, I would love to talk to you in that capacity too. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Melissa. That was great. Certainly a lot of potential with this entire project. So this is the time now. If anyone has any questions, feel free to either write that in the chat bar, or you can raise your hand or just unmute yourself, show your video. Totally fine to come on screen and we can have a little discussion here. While we're waiting for that, I just had some follow-up questions and thoughts for you, Melissa, if you don't mind. Do you have any specific strategy, or what is your goal for the Learning Collaborative? Are you interested in potentially creating this into a department at the university, or potentially allowing for a certificate program, or have you all discussed that for the future?
Yeah, those are great questions. So we're still talking about a lot of those things. We do have a lot of kind of like swirling projects kind of going right now. So we are trying to figure out if we could offer a certificate program. So that's been something that has been talked about and is still ongoing. Just since we have some of these great classes, about well-being, would it'd be nice to have, a certificate for the students to get. Also, maybe even having, some type of certificate program for people outside of Purdue. So maybe just, regular professionals that want to gain more knowledge. So those are two things that we're kind of pursuing / investigating at this point. And then also like I said, I have a 2-year postdoc position, so I've got another year. So I'm really trying to get the collaborative going. And so I think the hope is that maybe we can gain some significant funds to, keep this program going at Purdue and have it be sustainable. So, it will just continue to grow. But
when you talk about students, are most of them undergraduates, or do you have postgrad or?
Right now, the classes that we offer, most of the students are undergraduates. I think for some of the others, we have had some grad students, but right now, most of them are undergraduates.
And what sort of commentary are you, or anecdotally, are you hearing from students? Are they interested in just the concept of measuring well-being? Are they just fascinated with their own well-being? Is it more of a perspective on community well-being? What is their, I guess, what is their motivation for taking these courses?
Yeah, I think there's various interests. So like, I think a lot of them are struggling individually. So I think that a lot of them, at Purdue, there's been we are lucky to have a big focus on well-being. So there's different pillars that are kind of institutionalized that I think are really speaking to the kids, but I think that they still are kind of craving or needing some, assistance to, keep their well-being high so they can be, successful students, they can be good scholars, they can be good people. But then I also think that we really have a lot of students that are really interested in improving others' lives. So they're really interested in like nonprofit work. They're interested in like kind of that big community well-being, even the societal well-being. So I think some of them are really interested in, making a difference outside of just themselves, outside of just their job. So that's why I feel like having, different classes, like it's really, it's attracting students from all different disciplines, which is really what the honors college kind of tries to bring about. So yeah, we just keep adding more classes and, they seem to be, very, very well aligned and received. So that's encouraging. So I think that speaks to, kind of, we have something, the students are wanting it. It's, keeping it going and, attracting others to this field too.
Certainly.
Oh, a hand.
Hi, Beth. And
Hi, let me put that down because I'll forget later. Yeah, so that was very interesting. Thank you. I know Rhonda a little bit, and I work with Laura a lot, and we
Yeah.
kind of adapted the happiness index with some conservation questions. So we have it's called
Nice.
wild happiness,
I
and
love it.
yeah, and it's great. We're about to actually implement it for the first time in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. And I think there's a guy there at the University in Kinshasa that maybe has reached out to you a little bit, but his students, we're hoping to be able to connect them to actually do the data collection and analysis for this project, which I think it's an amazing way to build the capacity of students and communities, so we can have a community member and the student in the DRC do the survey of the communities. Anyway, I just was, I'm doing a kind of creating an e-class with Laura to deliver to the class in the Congo. And I'm just wondering if there's either collaboration opportunities there, or if you have that kind of thing going on with in other countries. The one thing about this project that's particularly interesting is it's a climate change, a RED project. So they have to demonstrate that the well-being of the community is improved alongside the carbon sequestration, right?
Nice.
And what I've found through that process is that there's no clear definition of how you show the well-being of communities being improved. It's mostly these objective indicators. So that adding these, does the community think their lives have improved, I think is really a vital addition to this kind of project evaluation. And I guess I just wanted to see if there's collaboration opportunities, or if you have any thoughts on any of that, or.
Yeah, no, that's really great. Yes, I think that I know exactly who you're speaking of. And I think that we have been trying to get like an LOI or an MOU established. Like I think that's in the works right now. Because yeah, that's the kind of thing that we are really interested in doing, is something along those lines where we can, at some point, hopefully, collaborate with students, in different countries, and I think it does speak to, there's so much interest and so many uses for, gathering this kind of type of data, looking at, the well-being of different communities and, how does that impact, the environment or the animals or the wildlife, or, there's the political scene. I mean, there's just so much that can be done, and it's so interesting to see it being used like in different areas. So yes, I think that, and really it's cool to see the students like be involved in this process. So like the students at Purdue are so interested in this type of work, and it's cool. I think there's a lot of students, lots of places that are really, we all want to find out like how we can make things better. And, there's so many pressing concerns right now with, environmental issues, political issues, social issues, like there's tons of issues, and there's, we need to have these good tools, and we need to collect this data, and have it, tell the stories, of what's going on, and then, have it inform those next steps, so yeah, like this is what we're trying, like I said, we're kind of doing baby steps. We've made some good strides this year just alone, which is encouraging. It's hard to get started. You have these big ideas, but you have to have passionate people, and, just a lot of talking and back and forth. And, sometimes that's really difficult, but, hopefully we're getting to the point where we can start to see some, real things come about, like real projects. And yeah, so exciting. Yeah, it's nice to meet you. I've heard your name from Laura. Yes, Laura is wonderful. So cool.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, thank you, Beth.
Thanks, Beth. Good to see you.
Yeah.
This is great, and I think it's interesting that you're sort of training young minds to to learn how to measure well-being and happiness. When ISQOLS was started in 1995, they were simply trying to recognize quality of life as its own discipline. Just even trying to introduce the concept of quality of life. And so now we're in the, fast forward to now where we're training, undergrads to how to measure respectively well-being and quality of life. Is fascinating, just the progression there. So you're doing wonderful work. I don't know if we have any other comments from any of our other participants. If anyone else has a question. Are you, Melissa, planning to present on this at the conference coming up in August?
So I think we're going to share a little bit about the collaborative. I know I'm just sharing my dissertation work, which was just looking at well-being of college students. I've got that for myself. And then Rhonda and I believe, are going to talk about kind of just like the state of well-being studies in the US and internationally. So we're doing some kind of lit review type research to see what's being done kind of at the university levels in our country and outside. So we know, like I said, we know that, we're not the only place, Purdue, there's other universities and colleges that are offering classes like this or doing this type of research, or maybe they offer some type of certificate or even a degree program. So we're just going to try and, share that to understand what's going on and maybe where we could use more of it. And like I said, I know that I think Dr. Jason Ware, I think he is probably bringing some students. So we're hoping, to connect with people in person this year at ISQOLS, which would be really nice. And so if people want to reach out to us between then and now, we'd love to hear from them. But yeah, hopefully we'll make some great connections in August.
Certainly. And, there's programs similar to this happening in universities across the world. And part of ISQOL's goal is to connect you all. So hopefully through this webinar presentation, after we share the recording to our members, you might have some people reach out. So and I also have some other people in mind to connect you with. And on that note, if we could have you share, any of those journal articles that you had mentioned, Beth, if you are still with us, Beth, if you could share your project that you're doing so we can highlight and promote that. That's really my job, is to connect you with folks, like-minded folks from around our society, so from around the world. And Melissa, thank you so much. This is exciting to see all this happening in the US, and of course we're here to support you, and hopefully we'll have you back in a year or 2 years to see your project.
Very good. Thank you, Jill.
That would be wonderful.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
And just a reminder to everyone, we do have our conference coming up. If you have not registered, please do consider that. We'll be sending out the recording after this is over with the trial membership offer. If you're not a member, you're welcome to join us as well and earn that membership discount that ends May 30th, that early bird registration deadline. So we hope that you will join us at our conference in Burlington, Vermont, coming up in August. So thank you, Melissa. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. And hopefully we'll be in touch more about this topic.
Sounds good.
All right. And I'm going to go ahead and just stop recording.